Okay, so it's like, yeah, that's basically it. But what I'm trying to say is, like, for men, it's different. Like, men, they don't have to do that. Like, it's not like a death sentence.
Men want to marry because they want to procreate and they want sex and they want a woman. Like, that's just common
But all that
knowledge.
was happening before marriage happened.
But
So-
it shouldn't be.
Well, that's a moral judgment. And I think that basically marriage...
It's also a biological thing.
Marriage, I think, started as a way of instituting social control. Because
No, when a
Let
man
me finish,
and
let
woman
me
have
finish.
sex,
So I think it
They're
has to do with
bonding.
a form of social control, because it's bad for society to have a bunch of like parentless kids running around. That's why I say that inherently the institution of marriage is about creating a context in which children can be raised. Everything above that, the religiosity, the romance, the legality, the status, is not something the institution of marriage is designed by nature to sustain. And that's why marriage fails. Like, marriage didn't even become a covenant in the Catholic Church until the 16th century. Jesus was not married. The popes didn't get married. So, like, religiosity is something that was added to marriage further down the line. And then even further down the line, there was a conflation of two concepts, the love affair and the, like, let's say the family arrangement. And like the love marriage was born. And I think that love marriage has actually done more damage to the institution of marriage than social media and feminism.
Well, let's move off of the marriage thing here. But look, it's kind of vanilla as a dude in today's day and age to get married. If we want to see a return to traditional values and a return to marriage, I think a couple things need to happen. Divorce needs to be stigmatized, which used to be the case but is no longer the case. That's never going to happen. The other thing is there needs to be a rewriting of marriage laws. If you want to see people start getting married again, get rid of alimony. It's a holdover of days where basically women couldn't go out into the workforce and make their own money, and perhaps there are some scenarios where alimony may be warranted, but if you want men to start getting married, perhaps get rid of no-fault divorce, or just do a rewriting of the marriage laws where men aren't financially destroyed in the event of divorce. I think that's probably the most realistic way to bring people back towards marriage, and we should probably see conservative politicians pushing for a rewriting of the marriage laws if they value marriage, but it's not clear to me if conservatives really are prepared to do any sort of redo of how marriage or how divorce plays out in the United States. So I think that's the big thing. If you want to see people getting married again, divorce has to be stigmatized on the social level, and they need to rewrite the divorce, marriage laws, divorce laws, and perhaps we need to return to traditional values. But
I agree with that, Brian, personally.
But the only one that can really be changed, I don't think that there's. I don't think you're going to convince like hyper liberal people that to return to traditional values. I think people who are conservative or traditional can maintain the status quo within their communities, and you can try to bring people to more traditional values, but it's not like hookup culture is here. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be a huge incentive for men to be dying to get married, especially a lot of men are waking up to the absolute destruction that occurs to them when they do get divorced. So yeah, let's see. Do we have any super chats, Eric? We have Dustin Bond, following trad roles where women stays at home and raises kids, giving up career pursuits, and man goes to work providing for the family without the consequences of dividing financial resources. If divorce occurs, the man has unreasonable leverage and power over his partner. Without the dividing. if divorce occurs, the man has unreasonable leverage and power over his partner. Okay. Word.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, the argument for alimony is basically, look, if a woman chose to disregard pursuing a career in an effort to raise a family, I mean, well, that plays a bit into child support too, but there is some argument there. But I mean, that doesn't undo the fact that the man's got to fucking pay alimony, and the family court system has a bias against men. So, look, if you guys want to protect yourselves, protect your finances, don't get married, point blank, period. Okay, we have, let's see here, we've got, I think that's it on the chats. We were going around the table, and we're going to try to wrap up here pretty soon. Did anyone want to come in with like something dating related that, well, I think you went, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Did
you already
someone
asked.
else want to go?
Go ahead.
Sure, you just brought up hookup culture. So who do you think controls hookup culture? Like, who sets the tone for it? Men or women?
Women.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because women control access to sex.
Right. They're the gatekeepers of sex, but don't you think guys kind of like lie and manipulate women? Like, I think a lot of women want relationships, but a lot of guys want casual sex. So don't you think like the nature of modern courting is that guys will wine and dine girls, and then the girls are kind of like rizz them up and lead them on to believe like they do want a relationship. So
Sure.
don't you think guys are the ones who kind of carry the weight of hookup culture just by the nature of modern courting?
Well, I definitely think that there are certainly men out there that are going to misrepresent what they want. They're going to say, I want a relationship, blah, 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 and then they hook up with a girl once and then never talk to her again. I think that's wrong. I think you ought to be, men to some degree play a role, but you have to ask yourself what percentage of men are playing that game. And it's a small subset of men. And I think this also plays into, and it's one of the reasons why I asked the question, well, what do you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And this is why I give the pushback if a girl, for example, who, at least in my view, isn't a 10, but she considers herself a 10. Women need to be realistic, because women do need to be careful about men who are not being
Misrepresenting.
Because what happens is you have men who are more than prepared to sleep with a girl who is less attractive than them. So men will sleep with women of a certain attractiveness level that they would never commit to, just based off purely their physical appearance. Because men, not all men, but a fair amount of men, will sleep with women that are less attractive than them because they welcome the easy access to sex.
That's interesting. I've actually heard the opposite from the red pill community, that like you should like fuck the 9s and 10s, but you should date the 6 and 7s because they're way less likely to be narcissistic, way less likely to cheat, way less likely to advertise themselves on Instagram.
No, I'm with Brian on this one. I think that men will do that. They have much lower standards for who they will sleep with versus who they will get into committed relationships with.
Based off physical attractiveness?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. And
among other things.
Yeah, and the difference is, generally speaking, I would say, in order for a woman to sleep with a guy, if we're speaking just off of physical attractiveness, for a woman to sleep with a guy, he needs to be at least physically attractive enough for her to consider being in a relationship with him. Now, the same typically isn't the case for men. Men will sleep with women of, say, a lower physical attractiveness, but they would never be in a long-term committed relationship with them.